Welcome to Dump Truck Toolbox. I'm Alan, and today we're going to be talking pre-trip inspections with Michael St. Denis of Revecorp. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Alan.
Michael and I worked together when I was a safety manager at a transit company. I'm a big fan of the services and software that his company Revecorp provides. This is not a sponsored video, though. My first question for you today is, why do dump truck operators need to do pre-trip inspections?
Actually, all commercial vehicles are required to do pre-trip and post-trip inspections, basically to ensure that the vehicles are safe to operate on road. There's other benefits besides just meeting a federal requirement to do that. It's costly if you break down on road, et cetera, or if you have a safety incident. So it's both to comply with the federal law, but also just to make sure that your vehicles operate well when they're out being used and everyone is safe while they're using them.
Michael, what are some of the biggest problems that you hear from your clients, from fleet managers or business owners who have fleets of commercial vehicles?
Generally, there's two problems. One is ensuring that the drivers are doing their inspections to keep them safe and to comply with federal law. We provide a service to do pre-trips and post-trip inspections that's digital. And in doing that, we use a tablet. And when you use a tablet, the tablet allows us to actually track that somebody's doing the inspection. So a manager can see that someone actually walked around the vehicle, that took them 8 to 10 minutes to do the inspection so that they know that it was done. So that's one issue, is just making sure that everybody is doing them, because you can't be everywhere at once to watch everybody.
At the transit company that I was the safety manager at, when we rolled out your software system, we had a drivers committee, and one of the drivers said, "Oh, we're going to have a lot of pushback on this." And one of our older drivers, one of the wise heads on the drivers council, said, "Well, I think the people who are going to push back are the ones who are not doing pre-trip inspections very well," and that's sort of the point. And so when we rolled it out, we did have a little bit of pushback, but I know compliance went up. And that was a key benefit of doing an electronic vehicle inspection report.
The second one is to help communicate what problems you see on the vehicle back to the maintenance shop. So if someone fails something for a tire, and I ticked the box that just said tire is a problem, the shop doesn't know what you're talking about. Is there a gash in the side? Is there a screw in the tread? Is the air low? And so doing it digitally allows you to leave a voice message or text that the shop can see, and it says, "Hey, there's a screw in the tire." And that way, when the shop gets that message, could also be a picture, the shop knows where to look. So am I looking for a gash? No, I'm looking for a screw in the tire. So if the tire happened to be in a position that's sitting on the screw, the shop would look at it and go, "Well, I don't see anything wrong." Where if there's a screw, enough to roll the tire, then you can look and find it and repair it. And it helps improve the communication between the drivers and the shop. So the driver doesn't get it back frustrated that the shop didn't do something about it, because the shop knows exactly what to look at. So that's kind of the biggest problem, is increasing the communication between the shop. The shop may even be remote from where the drivers are, so that they can really get things fixed more quickly and keep vehicles in service.
One of the things that we found was obviously getting the right information to the shop was key, but there's also communication back from the shop to the drivers. Can you talk a little bit about how an electronic vehicle inspection report can do that?
In the federal regulations, there's actually a requirement that the shops notify the drivers when they've done repairs. Most people don't formally do that. If it's repaired, the shop fixed it, sort of a thing. In a digital inspection, what we can do is show the driver first, the last driver who had this vehicle failed it for a tire. And so I know the left front tire has an issue. And when I go to inspect it, the digital software can actually warn you, the last person failed it for this, and I don't see a repair, so you should look at it carefully. If it is repaired, the software could say it failed last time and it's been repaired. And now the driver learns, hey, the shop actually did what I asked. One of the big complaints drivers have is that I say left tail light out, left tail light out, left tail light out on a form every day. And I go by a whole month and no one has fixed it. And so they will know right away that someone has addressed the problem. We also find that it's good for accountability. The shop is held accountable and the driver is held accountable for doing the right thing. So if the driver knows that the shop hasn't fixed it the very first time after they looked at it, they could go in and talk to their management and say, I can't go out. I still have a problem with the tire. And that's on the shop to get it fixed. Then, like you said, what we found is as soon as you start holding everybody accountable, they know what they need to do. They like to get things addressed quickly. It keeps more of the vehicles in service. Nothing's down because it's waiting for something. People just address things quickly. And we actually find the shop and the drivers start talking to each other more. They're just happier with each other because everybody knows what the other guy is doing. They know, hey, the shop knows I'm holding the driver up or vice versa. I'm complaining about something that the shop's like, it's a scratch. It can still go out. It's a dump truck. It shouldn't be holding me up. And so it allows everybody to kind of come to an agreement as to what's important and what isn't with management.
At with our fleet, where I was safety manager, the chief mechanic was one of the biggest fans. He pushed hard to get the system implemented, and then he was a power user. And one of the things he took advantage of was the capability in your system to give an update report that, yeah, we're aware of the issue, we've ordered parts, or it's scheduled for, first thing next week. And so even if it hasn't been repaired, the driver experiences the benefit of two-way communication. I told them, they heard me, they're doing something, and I have an expectation that things will move ahead here. And that's a big benefit. Another thing I want to talk about is that in the situations I've been in as a driver, as a dispatcher, and as a safety manager, every single place had boxes and boxes of completed vehicle inspection reports or the books, where they've torn off the top sheet and the yellow sheet is there on a pad in the vehicle, and just boxes and boxes of that stuff. Whether anyone ever uses it for anything or not, at a minimum, it sure looks like a fire hazard to have all that paper lying around. And so for your customers, how important is moving to the digital record keeping for just for finding stuff and for maintaining some order in the office?
What we find is that as soon as people start using the system, they start asking questions. So which vehicle fails the most? Who is doing proper inspections? Those kinds of questions. There are other important things that you get out of it, which is what item fails the most. Because if I have half my vehicles have Michelin tires and half of them have Continentals, and I see that whenever I have a problem, it's a Continental tire, that kind of informs your decisions later about which tire am I going to buy. You also could see if somebody does an inspection and never fails anything, starts to make you wonder, hey, are they paying attention to what they're doing? And so once you have the digital data, you can look through it and find those nuggets in there that can save you time and money and keep your vehicles on road. If I have just 10 vehicles in my fleet, and I just go back and look simply to say which vehicle has failed the most in the last year, and it's time to replace a vehicle. It may not be the oldest one. It may be that those older ones were built better, which sometimes happens to be the case, and last longer. And it may be one that's 5 years old that just continuously has problems that I may decide, if I'm going to buy a new one, that's the one that I'm going to get out of my fleet. And if you have all that data in books that's never been entered, you don't have what we call actionable data. I have data, like you said, in stacks of boxes somewhere in a warehouse, but I can't make a decision based upon it. And so it gives you the ability to look at the data in lots of ways. Some of the best reports that we have actually come from our customers where they say, I want to see when blot happens. And we're like, oh, how do we do that? Okay. And we can make a report for them. Actually, I think you gave us one of the reports that people love because the data are there. I don't do that every day, but our customers come up with these great ideas. And so we love like trying to dig through the data and find a way to present it to them. And we get great feedback from that. If you think you will like it, I'm sure someone else will want it. So we just add it to the reporting suite so that others can use it if they want to.
The company I was a safety manager for, we had about 50 vehicles and about 100 drivers, and we had 2 maintenance locations. And so the digital communication, the accountability were all invaluable. And the investment we made in your electronic vehicle inspection report was great. And there are 2 investments, and I'm going to ask you to talk about these a little bit. There's the startup, getting it all set up, and then the ongoing cost. So I think, and a lot of people who follow my channel are individual owner operators, and for them, probably the vehicle inspection report systems in their head, one vehicle, one driver, and so there's probably no sense in having a computer system. But what size of fleet does it start to make sense to invest in a system like your electronic vehicle inspection report?
In the system right now, we have fleets that are small. I think the smallest is 7 vehicles, and then several that are several hundred vehicles. What makes the most sense is if you have where people are doing the inspections or where maintenance is being done as remote from you, regardless of how many vehicles you have, it's easier to see what's going on. So like in your case, I think you had 5 sites or more where people would take vehicles, they may take vehicles home and do the inspection before they went online, or be at 5 different sites where they're being dispatched from, and then, like you said, 2 different maintenance yards. The system is set up so we can have different sites where things are done or where they're repaired, and a manager in one location can just be narrowed down to just see the vehicles at their site, so they don't have to see everything. But if a driver took a vehicle home and they go and do their pre-trip at home before they go onto their route, because that's the way you operate, you may never see that paper form, but you would see it instantly back at your office if it's done digitally. So that's the advantage to doing that. You asked about startup cost. There's a small startup cost to get the inspection set up. We generally start with something that is FMCSA compliant, but people always want to add things. There's no cost to do that, but you may say, hey, I want to make sure that the dump bed does go up and down before you leave, because otherwise you're not of much use on the road. Or there are other things that you can add. Generally, people end up with not just the 11 that are required, but they end up with 20, 30, 40 items to make sure that the vehicle's really going to work throughout the day and catch anything so it can get repaired before it has to go back on the road. So there's a small startup cost there. It runs on an Android tablet, so you could use a phone. If you have an Android phone, you could run it on that, or you could buy tablets. Tablets are about $100 to do this kind of thing that you could leave in the vehicle. If it's cellular, there's cellular service, or if you have it on your phone, you already have cellular service. The data is really small, so it won't impact the user. And then there is a cost per vehicle per month that it's used on. Again, that's relatively small. We don't care how many users you have. If the maintenance shop uses it, we don't charge for that. So if in your case, you had 55 vehicles or 50 vehicles, we charge for that. If you have 100 tablets out there that use it on those vehicles, that's all we're concerned about.
One of the nice features that I used was the ability to take photos of the vehicle and the specific component that was to be inspected. For an experienced driver, this wasn't a big issue. As a safety manager, I was also the driver trainer, and we were having some people working for us for whom this was the first commercial vehicle they had ever driven, and it was also the first time they had to do a vehicle inspection report. And so on a paper form, it might say tires, check. And we were able to put a picture of the curbside front tire, the curbside dualies, the the driver's side, all the way around. And then we had I forget what it was, 4 things on each tire you were supposed to inspect: the tread, the sidewall, the hub, and the lug nuts. And so just to have those things in a digital photo that would pop up on the tablet was really made my job as a driver trainer a whole lot easier. That if this is a new type of vehicle and a new requirement for you, you're able to go, oh, okay. Oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But the other great thing and about your system, I'm sure many others, is that you have a lot of features that a fleet manager or an owner operator with a group of trucks can choose to use, invest the time and energy to set those things up, but can also choose not to use. It's you sort of a build your own bear type of vehicle inspection report.
Yes, when we started setting up the system, the biggest thing that we heard from people was their big expense is cost. Staff are hard to get, hard to maintain, and expensive to bring back up to speed. And so one of the things that we focused on was trying to make the software so there was less guessing by the driver as to what has to be done. Like you said, we show a picture of what they should be inspecting. There's a little help button, and they can press on that, and you can have detailed instructions. You can even have a video there about how do you operate this and inspect it. So right there, while they're inspecting it, they can click on that and see a little video. Oh, this is how I make the bed go up and down. And here are the 3 spots I should be looking at. They can see that. And then the questions that we present to them are generally things that aren't pass or fail. If they look at a dipstick, we say, is it between the bars? Is it above the bar? Is it below the bar? And that way the driver doesn't have to guess what's passing or fail. A lot of drivers, if they saw the oil's above the top bar, is that a failure? Is that a warning? They would come and ask you. They wouldn't know what to do. And so we say, just tell us what you see. And then somebody smart like Alan there would decide that, hey, if it's above the bar, that's a warning. That means it can go out. It's not going to prevent it from operating. But I want to know that, because when it comes back in, I want somebody to look at it and see, do they not know how to read the dipstick? Or is it that somebody overfilled it and we need to address that with the shop? And so it takes out a lot of time in training with the driver. We say that, they watch an 8-minute video on how to log into the tablet and do an inspection, and they should be able to just immediately go out and do it without having to ask any questions. And that's worked pretty well. And I want to bring up one other thing that actually, it was your idea now that I was thinking about it, is at one point you asked us to add an inspection item, which was take a picture of the tag on all the fire extinguishers in all your vehicles. So you had vehicles all over that part of Virginia, and it's very hard to know if the fire extinguisher had expired. And so for a few days, we added an item remotely, and all the drivers, it popped up and it said, is the expiration date valid on the fire extinguisher? It should be past whatever today's date was, or should be after today's date. And then we said, take a picture. And then after a couple of days, after everybody had done it, we made that item go away. But then in the office, you could go and look at each one of those tags and make sure that, hey, they all have a valid fire extinguisher in it, and I'm not going to get into trouble. And so the system gives you that flexibility to add an item just for a few days, give them instructions what you want them to do. But yeah, I remember the fire extinguisher idea was great. We've got lots of people that use that on an annual basis. They just turn around for a few days and turn it off. But you don't want to get pulled over and get cited for that. So that's a good one.
So Michael, any closing thoughts from you?
Just that we are always happy to talk to people. It doesn't cost anything. We're happy to do a demo for you and explain to you a little more about how it works. So just reach out if you have any questions. And thank you, Alan.
Michael, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. I'm going to put contact information for Revecorp in the description of the video. Please post comments below. If you have any vehicle inspection stories you want to share, any use of digital tools, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. If you found today's video useful or interesting, click the like button. I'm Alan, and I look forward to seeing you again soon on the Dump Truck Toolbox.